Israel's plans of attacking Iran were leaked within the U.S. to the public. So I haven't actually seen exactly what this leak was saying. Can you tell me about what happened here?
It apparently, well, first of all, stated that the attack was imminent. I think maybe actually the date may have already passed, but that may be due to the leak. And it named targets, it listed targets. I think it was air defense systems mainly, radar installations, and so forth, which would make sense, as maybe the first wave of a series of attacks. That's what you first go for, because you knock out their air defense and it becomes easier to do everything else, right? And to all appearances, this is real, and it's very highly classified. Actually, it was I think Larry Johnson pointed out that sections of the report were not even were limited only to people with top secret clearance within the U.S. No foreign citizens, including Israel. And there was another section that only allowed intelligence officers in the U.S. and in the U.K. to see it, and again, not Israel. So it's a very, very high level, it is, and as you think it would be, for when we're dealing with very sensitive information like this about an imminent attack. Now the question is, why was it leaked, right? Right. And I think it's, we've been talking about it, that the defense establishment, and I'm sure it applies equally to the intelligence establishment in the U.S., really do not want this to go forward. Let's say there's a very large faction, let's say call them realists, who do not want to be used by Netanyahu to escalate against Iran. They do not want to be involved in this. They don't want it to happen. Even if the Israelis did the first part by themselves, they would not want it to happen because they know it takes the two countries up the escalation ladder. And eventually, the U.S. will be drawn in. So it may be, people, it's what makes sense to me. It's like, it was leaked in the U.S. You would think it would have to be somebody in U.S. intelligence who leaked this. And probably somebody who represents probably a fairly large faction that just does not want this to happen. And by doing this, by leaking this, they clearly threw, a cog into the works. And, probably at least delayed an attack by Israel. So and this gives, Iran a chance to prepare. If they know that this is the most, this is where the spearhead is pointed at, they can concentrate their resources in that area.
Do you think that this was perhaps a lone individual that was thinking that, this is getting out of hand and I want to prevent World War III? Or do you think that this could have been, like you said, there's a large faction and the Pentagon doesn't want this, or potentially also Biden obviously doesn't want this, or Kamala, whoever's really in charge now? There was that report that came out a week ago that Biden was threatening to stop all arms shipments to Israel if the humanitarian crisis in Gaza wasn't resolved. Clearly trying to push it beyond the election date. And so is there some play here that maybe this was not just a rogue whistleblower, a rogue analyst, or high-level official, that it was actually planned, that maybe the order was given from somebody as high up as, Lloyd Austin himself or even Biden, that said, like, we can't.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Probably not Biden. I can't really, but it's possible. I mean, they're clearly, they're not happy with the way things are going. There is, like we said, there's always the neocons have always been there. There are a lot of them in the State Department. There are some in the Department of Defense, and they've always been itching for war with Iran. But they have tried in the past, and the realists actually have always held them back. And I think, we saw it actually back in April. That was, all the reports or many reports tell us that, in fact, the Iranians communicated with the Americans. It was actually a joint effort by the two countries to de-escalate. Right. So you show there is a a large faction, if not a majority, of the U.S. defense establishment that does not want to go. I'm sure it's a majority that does not want to go to war with Iran. So, yeah, it could have been just somebody who, an individual who made this decision. But even so, he would be, there would be a lot of like-minded individuals, I'm sure. But you're right, it could be somebody higher up. And, it could even be the president. I kind of doubt it, maybe just because, the president probably really isn't running anything right now. But, conceivably it could be Lloyd Austin. That's not impossible.
It goes to show that how broken and fractured our government is, though, that we're not able to even state our own intentions. Instead, we have to do this covert, leak, and where maybe they're happy the leak happened. Who knows if it was coordinated but clearly we don't want this, but we can't even go out and say,
we're supposed to be the
self-interest.
Right. Exactly. We're supposed to be the superpower, right? We're supposed to be the one calling the shots. Why would we have to leak it? But everybody knows why, because, the tail wags the dog. I think that's just a fact. We've discussed how there are people who think it's the other way around, but I think here's further evidence. It's the same old story. There's actually the U.S. is in a position of weakness relative to Israel, when it comes to political decisions.
Right. I mean, this is also kind of a double-edged sword for us too as well, because it openly shows the Iranians that this attack really isn't just Israel. They knew that already, but this just gives them just more proof, evidence to show that, the U.S. is they, of course they know it, but this is just openly showing that we're the ones planning it.
We're involved. We're involved in the planning very much.
Highly involved,
intimate.
Right. I mean,
right.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody really knew that this was something that Israel could not pull off on its own.
Right.
I think that's
right.
The U.S. had to be involved, right?
But you're even saying that this was something that not even the Israelis had access to, these plans. It just shows you the level of our involvement.
Yeah.
But we don't even want to
actually,
do this.
It doesn't really mean that. It's just this report, for whatever reason. I don't know exactly why parts of it weren't supposed to be shown to the Israelis, but. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
that's an interesting question because I haven't gone really into the details. So, I've been given a sketch of what it was about. So that's that question hasn't really been answered in my mind. Why parts of it were not supposed to be shown to the Israelis.
So what does this mean to you then? Or is it back to the drawing board? We're going to do it again? Do you think that there's something under trying to push this back past November 5th? I mean, how do you take all this?
Yeah, it certainly does seem to be the case. I think that's why it was leaked. Somebody didn't want it to happen. At least, like you say, at the very least, they didn't want it to happen before November 5th. And I think the other, the reason that things are taking so long is, like we said earlier, that this is not going to be an easy thing to pull off. This is not like, dropping bombs on apartment blocks in Beirut, which the Israelis are clearly very good at, or wiping out neighborhoods in Gaza. They can do that any time of the day. But this is going to be a very difficult operation. Iran is far away. Iran is defended, and so I think they're just. They're trying to work out a plan that they feel has a reasonable chance of success, and maybe they came up with one, and now the works were gummed up by this suicide leak. Why do you say suicide? This intelligence leak.
Well, maybe that's
a Freudian slip, but right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be suicide for Israel and the United States. So what were the targets that they were stating? That they were energy
air
infrastructure?
Defense, basically. That's what I heard. And maybe there's some other things, but mostly air defense and maybe some other military installations.
So this leak happened first, and then the drone attack, right? Then the drone attack on the Netanyahu's
I'm
house.
not quite sure what the chronology is. I'm not sure.
I want to see it just because I'm wondering, if it was leaked, and they're like, damn it, we can't go for that attack. then they do your false flag theory, and now they're pivoting towards the assassination attempt of the Ayatollah. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I
if that's
think
too
the
far out
fact
there.
that they're going to do this air defense attack doesn't mean they didn't have some sort of assassination plan. They still have it planned, because again, you take out air defense and then you do something else. That's the way it works. That's just like taking out air defense is the first step, right?
Yeah, right. But I mean, if you assassinate the Ayatollah, I mean, you would unleash hell, right, across the region.
I think that's what they want to do. I mean, look. I mean, has Israel shown any constraint over the last several months? They haven't.
I know. I keep on going.
Spree. I don't think there's all the way up to using a tactical nuclear weapon. I think everything's possible.
Okay, it's just so crazy. I saw that Netanyahu's popularity, his Likud party, if they held elections now, he would probably win. And to me, that's just so crazy that and we talked about that. We know the air defense system's gone. You destroy you kill the Ayatollah. I mean, come on. Hezbollah's going to unleash everything it has. Iran's going to go ballistic as well, unleash everything. Israel's done for. That's just a suicide. That's what he said. This was a suicide plan, right? This is what it is. That's the end of Israel. So I just don't understand why there's so much support for this suicidal, Likud death cult that they have going on.
Well, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's just that when a country's in the grips of war fever, it's a combination of fear and bloodlust, and it just clouds the mind. Otherwise intelligent people stop thinking intelligently. And I think that's what we're seeing.